Hello, myself Sunil R Nair, and here basically we are discussing about the currency part. Basically, in this basically we have reached up to this level. That is the total system basically is in this world basically is 3 lakh. So this system basically might be created by some group, right? So assume that there are 212 country basically. Each basically created 50-50 systems basically. Just taking as an example basically. More than 50 basically example basically. So each and every people basically created more than 50 systems basically. So that is basically the one possibility, right? So they will be, for example, the 50 system is created and they have got this certain level of priority that if this type of incidents basically happens in the world basically, then you have to apply your system into that country basically, and you have to do you have to just apply the system basically into that country. The sequence automatically will come, the sequence of the world basically is automatically going to come basically. For example, the visa basically, in visa H1B visa, before H1B visa the investment was made by the Indian government and by the Indian businessmen. Same way basically the world level system also will be like this basically. This is the one first basically possibilities. Another possibilities might be that one country basically will take the responsibility of entire system creation. This possibility is very less basically, and another basically country will do the testing of each and every system basically. This possibility is very less basically, but it might possible that this type of possibility also might be there. So 99% it can be, and 99% it can't be also basically. So that basically depends upon the which kind of task basically they are doing. So like this basically this is basically about the system basically. So according to this system basically, the possibilities of the system basically which is created, for example one country created and one country tested the system and entire system basically implemented to whole world basically. This possibility if occurs, for example this is basically also one of the system basically way. This is also basically, assume that basically this is the one way basically the system basically is got created, that is the 3 lakh. So in this possibility the rate of the dollar and the rate of the INR basically will be less or it might be more also. That depend upon the conditions basically. The second possibility is each and every country basically created 50-50 systems. Then basically they have done the sequence according to the incidents happened and according to the order basically given by the set of groups basically. This is another possibility of the system creation. According to that basically the INR rate and the dollar rate will be totally different basically. So this type of possibilities are basically there, because only you can't basically create the fixed system basically, that this is a fixed system and according to that basically you have to work. It might possible that system will fail, so you have to keep the backup basically. For example, I will take one example. Assume that one of the state basically chief minister is there, right? He basically is due to some reason basically he basically was supposed to resign the job basically. Just taking as an example, real basically this has not happened. Like this possibility, who is going to take the charge of the that particular state? By default basically it's precedent rule, right? Basically precedent. So another system basically is there, right? If the system the precedent rule is not going to be there, that type of system basically might have created, then what are the big problem basically? The state might be suffer everywhere basically. The problem basically might be, because if one day basically the chief minister is not there in the state basically, just to see basically what is the condition basically, because they take lots of big decisions basically. That's why basically if one day basically the chief minister is not there, just see basically what are the things going to happen. So like this basically assume that chief minister resigned the job, so immediately basically the precedent rule applies to the state basically. Reason behind this is the system, alternative system is created. So that's why basically this is basically just simple state basically. If you are applying this to 3 lakh system basically which is created, so that's why basically the possibilities are too much basically. For example, if you go with this sequence of the system basically, then these possibilities are there. If you are going with this system, then that's why basically 3 lakh system basically has created. Reason, it might possible that one possibility which was created, that basically totally failed basically. So there are 3 lakh combination, a minimum basically 3 lakh combination. All system basically not going to fail. The system will fail basically, but it might be 50, 60, 70 system might fail. But entire 3 lakh system basically is never going to fail. That is basically 100%. Otherwise basically there is no meaning of Earth planet only basically. The universe and satellite group will tell directly that basically there is no meaning of Earth planet if entire 3 lakh system basically are getting failed. So they are basically doing they are basically directly going to tell this only. That basically mostly will never happen basically. The possibilities basically I am telling you about. 3 lakh system created by the whole world, mostly 50, 60, 70 system failed. Chalo. Assume that 70, 80, 70 system or 80 system failed. But rest of 3 lakh combination multiply by at least basically 10 to 15 combination might be there na basically. So more than basically more than basically 1 crore combinations basically are there. More than 100 combination basically if applies basically. So 1 crore combination basically are there. If you are applying the system basically for particular days basically, then basically 1 crore days basically are there basically. So for 1 crore day this 3 lakh system basically has created. So 1 crore day means how many basically, you can just imagine. In 1 year basically 365 days, 10 years multiply by 365, 20 years multiply by 365. Like this basically 1 lakh also basically very rare basically. This is basically 3 crore combination basically. So 3 crore combination, if per day also basically you are taking one system basically, that basically just imagine the system basically which is created basically. 3 crore basically, minimum basically 1 crore combination basically is going to be. So just imagine basically. So like this 1 crore combinations basically are there. So in 1 crore combination, the system is going to be run in each and every country basically, and according to that basically currency basically gets differ basically, plus minus always happen, and that basically is 0.0001 paisa basically. Big level basically changes like 1 rupee, 2 rupees, that basically happens very rare basically, where big disaster basically will happen. That time basically the entire country basically got shut down. That time basically 1 or 2 rupees. That time also basically 1 or 2 rupees basically mostly never gets falls basically. Big level disaster basically happen basically. In monetary wise, in natural wise basically. That type of thing basically. That time basically 1 or 2 rupees. That time also 1 or 2 rupees basically very rare basically it get effect. But there is big energy level loss. That time basically lots of rupees basically sometime also falls. So there is value of energy basically. Because energy is equal to city's creation. So entire city basically gets effect. That's why basically. So 1 crore combination are basically there in this world basically for the system creation. Like one combination is this basically. Before H1B visa, the visa basically before H1B visa, the investment is already done basically in this world basically. Sorry, in USA basically, not in world basically. It's a dollar na basically. H1B visa only USA, I think they only release the H1B visa. There is no other country basically they release the visa of that is type given as a H1B visa. No basically other country basically gives the visa of H1B visa. So before visa process basically starts, the investment is already done by the Indian companies and basically the businessmen and the government basically. So like this basically government basically will never take the burden basically, too much burden basically or with them basically, because they have lots of work basically. They can't basically sit also basically, because there are lots of 5 crore people basically. It's a normal thing basically to do the planning of 5 crore people. that also basically energy level planning basically.